share my screen.
Can't hear you. I think you're muted.
Myself. Sorry, can you see that?
Yeah, can
We'll get there, won't we? We'll get there. Right, so let me just move this over there a little bit so I can see you up there. There we go. Right. So tonight we're going to go through Team 101, and this is something that has cropped up so much recently. Just generally with my own clients, we've got children and friends of mine and things. So I thought, right, I'm going to come on and just do a little bit of an overview about the skin and how you should be looking after your skin as a team. So what I'm going to do is a little intro about me. We're going to talk a little bit about influencers and social media, our skin and how it works in the teen years, because it works very differently from when we are adults. How using active ingredients, acids, things like that can cause problems with your skin when you're younger. And also then what ingredients to look for in skincare and just a basic skincare routine for you as a teen. So a little bit about me. So that's a really old picture of me now, a bit ago now. So I am a skin and wellbeing therapist. My background is beauty therapy. I've done this for 20 years now. And in the last probably 4 years, I have sort of really specialised more in skin wellbeing, because that's where my passion lies. I love skin stuff. I love educating my clients with skin. It's such a, it's such a big thing, and there's so much out there. It's a, a huge overwhelming skin. Even for me as a therapist, these things coming out all the time, constantly. When I was in my late teens, suffered really, really badly with acne. So for any of the younger ones that will be joining us on here today or later that do struggle with breakouts and things, I know what it's like. It's hard and it's, it is tough. But hopefully by the end of this, you will learn a few things, how to navigate your skin, get your skin in good health, because that's what we want. By the end of this. And I am also a qualified beauty teacher, something that I did in my early 20s. Obviously, I'm not actively doing that now, but something I would like to get back into. So now I'm just sharing a lot of this by doing these online courses and things with everyone to share my knowledge. So influencers and social media is a huge thing when you're young now. And, things like TikTok and Instagram, lots of other things we see, lots of people there that are influencing us, celebrities, even younger people. And I always think you've got to remember that we're all unique to ourselves. And this is something I always say to my daughter, that we're all beautiful just as we are, and we're all unique in our own way. And, don't be easily sucked into the world of social media influencers, because what you've got to remember is those people are getting paid to do that job. Those people are getting paid to promote those products and to, tell the world this is the most amazing product and this and the other. And they probably don't even use half of those things themselves. So, I always think, you've got to, it's hard, I think, as well, being a parent, because you always want your kids to be happy, don't you? And you want them to be, right. And but you also want them to be part of whatever the movement is and things like that. But I think it needs to be done, obviously, in a safe way, and not to be easily led by what is on there, because that is a snippet, a second or two of somebody's life. And I think what the scary thing is now, what's coming up more, is that these marketing people they're paying younger and younger influencers, children, to promote these products that are not designed for skin of 10, 11-year-olds, putting retinols and acids on the skin, and people are burning their skin, and you know, it's scary really. So that's just, you know, a little thing for me of how, you know, just remember, you know, we're all beautiful as we are, and it's just about looking after our skin and not, you know, trying to be what everybody else is out there. That's what I always say. Right, so a little bit here about our skin and how it works. So I'm not going to bombard you with loads of things. I'm just going to give you a little brief overview of the skin. So our skin is the largest living organ of our body. You know, our skin protects everything of us. Without it, we wouldn't be here. So it's really important that we do look after it. But with children, you know, their skin is still developing. It's, you know, it's still in its prime, and especially preteens, before you started puberty and things like that. Our sebaceous glands, which produce our oil, which when we hit puberty becomes more overactive, and that's when you'll see, you know, that's when people get the acne and when they're going through puberty. That isn't fully like functioning. So I think, you know, for you've got, this is something we've got to be really careful with, of protecting our barrier, because that oil is at, you know, more of a minimal level before we hit puberty. This barrier is so easily disrupted. So when I'm saying it's easily disrupted, meaning that when we're using lots of products that are not designed for our skin at that age, we are just causing havoc with our skin. And I think it's really important that, you know, learning about the skin and what goes on is really important for you yourself and for parents, because I know when I was younger, hi Kate, I know when I was younger, you know, there wasn't really anything, there was no real education. My mum didn't really know much about skin. She probably still doesn't really now, even though I do what I do, but she's a lot better. So I think we didn't have that education about the skin and what it actually does, and sort of we took it for granted really. So our oil production kicks in more during puberty. So that's when, you know, you get the breakouts more, your skin becomes a lot more oilier, you know, you're sweating more, you know, teenage boys in particular, they'll have more of an odor. I know, like my Harry, bless him, he's more of that sort of, you know, that age and stuff. But yeah, so it's, you know, it's really important that we are using the right things, which I will go through, you know, further on, looking after our skin's barrier. So our skin as well, I mean, it's so clever, there is the skin. We have our very own ecosystem all over our skin, which is called our microbiome. So microbiome is quite a big thing now, and you'll probably heard of it a lot more for the gut. So basically it's our good and bad bacteria. So it's, you know, it's very delicate when you're younger, especially pre-teen, before you've hit into that puberty. It's in its prime, your skin cells are doing, you know, functioning how they should be, they're at the best, you know, and they're healthy and things. So it's by disrupting this with lots of all these acids and products like that, is, you know, you're stripping that barrier, and you're damaging that barrier. And this is what we don't want to do at, you know, at such a young age. We want to protect that barrier as much as we can, keep it healthy, so that we don't we don't then have problems later on, you know, as we get older. Obviously this can change during puberty, because hormones play such a massive part in our skin. The changes in your hormones, then, you know, they do change how our skin works sometimes, and can cause problems. And that's when you'll see things like the breakouts. You might get, you know, sensitivity and things like that when you're going through puberty. So let's touch a little bit. So the skin cycle. So this like really fascinates me on how the skin actually works. And I think this is really important that you sort of know this in a, just, you know, in a really like layman's term. And this is something I always explain to my own clients about how the skin works, so that they know like how it works, why we're using and selecting the products that we are to help with the skin's barrier. Because I think if you don't know why it works, then you don't necessarily then know why you are using the products that you're using. So our skin cells, they're created from, we call it the mother cell. There's lots of more technical terms, but just for, so, you know, you've got the mother cell that then, you know, gives birth to all these cells, and these cells grow up to be an adult cell and they become our roof tiles. So basically this is what you see. So this part of our skin, the touch, what you're feeling, what you're seeing, those have been, you know, from the cells that have come from the mother cell and they've grown up. So this is sort of a rough cycle here of the, which you'll see here, of the cell cycle. So the cell is born, it grows, you know, into a toddler, teenager, young adult, and into an adult cell. So if this process of these cells are interrupted during this cycle by using products that are not suitable, it's just going to sort of wreak havoc with those skin cells. And I always like to refer to it as like, if you are, say, using something and that skin cell has only got to a teenager, then it's by putting products on the skin that are not gonna that are just wreaking havoc with that teenage cell. I always refer to it as, look at what teenagers are like. They like to play a bit of havoc, don't they, in our lives, and they like to cause problems. So, you know, you can have your things like, you might be getting some breakouts and sensitivity and lots of other things going on because that skin cell hasn't matured to become the roof tiles and the skin's barrier. So it's really important that we know how to nurture and look after our skin. And, you know, I think naturally we always feel that, you know, when we get problems with our skin, that we've got to bombard it with loads and loads of products to try and counteract that. And that's not the case. You know, we've got to nurture that and make sure, you know, that we're looking after it as best we can. So just talking a little bit about how using active ingredients can cause problems. So, you know, active ingredients are amazing for your skin if you're using them in the right way. And I still see it in, you know, in adults, in my own clients, that just buying lots of random things, don't necessarily know what they're using, or they buy things like, you know, because their friend's using it. But you got to remember is it's unique to us. So whatever our skin needs, that's what we should be doing. So using things like harsh abrasive exfoliators, using too many acids when you are in your teens or pre-teens, by overstimulating the skin with too many acids, is just going to wreak havoc with your skin's barrier. So it's going to break it down. You know, so things like glycolics, salicylics, all those sort of things. If your skin is just too young and can't tolerate them, it's going to cause problems and break down the barrier. And there's a time and a place for things. And as you get a little bit older and you're going through puberty, you might need some of those acids. But, you know, make sure if you are using that, you're guided by a skin professional, that you know what you're using and you're introducing it really slowly. You know, and you also know what your children are putting on, because I know a lot of the time as they get a bit older, they go out, don't they, with their friends, and they go and buying things, and you might not necessarily know what they're buying. So, you know, get familiar with ingredients and things like that, and, you know, see how, you know, what things are. And I will put together like a bit of a cheat sheet for you, and I'll email it out with, you know, like key ingredients to be looking for and to avoid for them at this age, or just being really cautious on what what you're using. So by using lots of stimulant, like, you know, I mean, retinols and things, they do not need to be using anything like that. You know, those are things that you need when you're a bit older, or if you've got certain skin conditions, to be using them. These can disrupt the microbiome, which we said, which is the good and bad bacteria. And if you look at it like food, if you overeat too many, you know, too much high sugar, too many, you know, bad carbohydrates, those sort of things, it disrupts our bacteria in our tummies, doesn't it? And you can you know, have problems then with that way. So it's a little bit like with your skin. If we're using too much and we're disrupting that, then it's going to cause problems with our microbiome. And what you may see as well, you know, either if it's, you know, you might see it in your children or the teens, or they might start seeing themselves, they might start to see all these problems occurring, like, you know, dermatitis and eczema, skin rashes, or being sensitive, that the skin is like bumpy, or they're getting rough textures and lots of breakouts. And then they will think, oh, I need to keep putting on to sort of help it. And then actually they just need to stop using everything, strip it back, and, you know, and just see where that might be coming from. And looking at also the diet, because, you know, a lot of, you know, when they're at school and things, especially once they start getting to high school, they're going to the shop before school, or they're buying a lot more things in school. So, you know, you see children having energy drinks, they're so bad for the skin because of a lot of them contain biotin, which just aggravates like acne and things like that. So energy drinks, lots of high sugar things are not great for they sort of feed it really. So, you know, looking at, I know it's difficult, but, you know, what they are kind of eating as well will contribute that, along with, we know, with the ingredients. Is everybody all right so far? Has anybody any questions? Feel free to jump in at any point if you need to ask me, or you want me to clarify anything, or if you're happy for me just to carry on, and then we can, when we get to talking about skincare parts, if you want to jump in and ask me about anything. Obviously, I don't know every brand, but I can sort of help you out with things like that. So if you're happy for me to carry on, I'll just carry on.
Can I just ask
Yeah,
a
of
quick
course you can.
question, Emily? Like,
Absolutely.
it's going to be, this is really basic, but what do you actually mean by active ingredients? How do you know
So
what?
active ingredients are usually anything that are like acids. So acids, like, there's so many different things, and like retinols and things like that. So what I'll do is I'll put together like a cheat sheet for you that's like got everything on of what I would say are the most common active ingredients. So like glycolic acid. So anything that's like an alpha hydroxy acid or a beta hydroxy acid, and there's different acids that come under that umbrella. Some of those in small doses are fine in certain aspects if it's guided by a skin professional. But if the skin is, you know, too young, these will just cause havoc, because acids have got to be introduced so slowly into the skin. And this is something I do with my own clients. And, you know, we sort of, you know, it's a gradual process, and I'll guide them through that. And we can see if things have sort of, if something's not quite right, I can say, right, well, we'll pull back on that, or we'll do this. So I'll put together a little cheat sheet for you, and I'll email it out with this recording, and then you can watch it again, and you probably will get bits from it. And then that'll probably make it a bit easier for you then, won't it?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So I would say, like, when you're just starting out in skincare and you're looking for things and you're not sure what to go, because there's so much stuff out there, it's like crazy now, isn't it? I mean, when I was younger, it was like simple, clean and clear. If you had, or Clearasil, and you just used to like burn your skin off with exfoliating stuff and things. But there was, or witch hazel, that was another thing. I remember having a witch hazel stick. I don't know if anyone remembers them, and they were like a little stick, and you used to just rub it on, and it was like, you know. And I know as well, I always say, if their skin gets really bad, and they're struggling quite bad with acne and things like that, myself, I ended up under a dermatologist when I was younger, because my skin was so bad that I needed, you know, the guidance. I mean, it doesn't always, you know, some of the things that they will put on are very strong, so obviously you've got to be equally careful as well. But I think if I'd have known a lot more when I was a teen about the skin and how it works, I'd probably been a little bit more not using the harsher stuff to try and combat that, because I think it's a natural thing that we think, right, the stronger, let's just strip, you want it just off, and then you just cake your face in makeup, you know. And it's just this vicious circle of, you know, the skin's just not being able to breathe. So when you're looking for ingredients in skincare, for, you know, even it doesn't matter for yourself, but for your children especially, or preteens, looking for things that are a bit more, you know, gentle on the skin. So niacinamide is an ingredient it's a form of vitamin B3. So this is really good for helping to reduce inflammation, redness, and it really helps to maintain that skin's barrier. So it puts that protection on the skin, and it helps to protect the skin. And it's, you know, it's really gentle. Ceramide, sometimes you'll see with both of these ingredients, niacinamide and ceramide, you might see that it's got it on, you know, on the front, it might say with this, with that. And ceramides are there to restore and maintain the skin's barrier. So these will help to prevent water loss in the skin. So they'll improve the hydration, they'll keep the skin hydrated. And what that's doing, especially while the skin is still vulnerable when they're younger, it's locking in that moisture within our skin, as well as other skin cells. We naturally have hyaluronic acid, which is water. Basically, that's our skin's water within the skin. So we want to keep all that nice and plump and nice and healthy. So protecting it with a good, you know, a nice moisturizer there with, you know, rich with ceramides will really help. Again, hyaluronic, I mean, when you're younger and you're like 10, 11, you don't really need to be looking too much into this. You just need a, you know, a nice basic moisturizer, really, because probably as you start to get more in the teens, because even when the skin gets oily and you struggle with acne and things like that, the skin can still get dehydrated, because obviously the oil and the water are two different things. So the skin might be overactive with oil because they're going through puberty and they're thinking, oh, my skin's really greasy and it's really horrible, but it actually can still get, you know, dehydrated. So they might say sometimes to kids, oh, my skin's just tight, or it's this, that. Especially I would say if you get out of the shower, you sort of, if you've got that feeling of tightness, that the skin is usually dehydrated, and dehydration is such a common condition. It's not a skin type, it's a condition. It's easily treated, but, you know, they still might get that, you know, dehydrated skin even though they're getting oilier. So things like your hyaluronic are good for helping to, you know, keep that skin's moisture. Where am I up to now? Squalane is like another moisturising. It nourishes, but it doesn't clog the pores, because that's one we don't want to be doing. We don't want to be clogging the pores when they're in that teenage years anyway, because they've got more oil production that we don't want to be clogging it. And then SPF is an absolute must. I mean, from a young age, putting SPF on every day, because it will prevent so many things in the future. You know, it'll prevent things like, you know, pigmentation, and which is brown spots usually, or different, you know, you can get different sorts of things, or you can get of pigmentation, especially now if there's more children that are reaching for these products that are not right for their skin, like retinols, acid-based products, and then they're going outside without any SPF on. They're going to get so many problems and pigmentation and things like that, because the skin, especially things like retinol, it's speeding up that skin cycle, like skin cell cycle, really quickly. So what it's doing is it's exposing their skin all the time. So when they go outside and they haven't got SPF on, then they're gonna, you know, be exposing themselves to lots of other things, you know, like pigmentation and things, and lots of problems. So definitely an SPF. And here, when I've put like a high broad spectrum SPF, that just means that it's something that filters out the UVA and the UVB rays. So I always remember UVA is your aging ray and UVB is your burning ray. So it doesn't matter how much you tan in the sun, or, you know, even if you've got a darker skin, you will still burn regardless. So you still need to look after your skin, and make sure that you're putting an SPF on. And, you know, even with your kids, if you just put a little bit on their face and the neck, you know, it takes like seconds really, doesn't it, just to pop a little bit on them. and just getting them into that habit themselves, that it becomes the norm to them, that like people like think, you know, I'll say to them, like, even if you sat in front of a window every day, you know, you need your SPF on, and people think I'm crazy, but I'm like, you need your SPF on every day. And it's if anything, it's the one skincare products that everybody should have. You know, if that was the only thing I could say you needed, is definitely SPF. So it's yeah, a definite. So basic skincare, this is what I would say for any sort of preteen, teen, is to cleanse with a gentle cleanser. So you can use a really small amount of cleanser, mix that with your water, and you know, you just gently massaging that in over your skin, over your face, over your neck in the morning and the night, and just rinsing it away with lukewarm water. Make sure the water's not too hot, because then that's going to strip the skin's barrier as well. So you can use a flannel. Just make sure as well that the flannel isn't a flannel, it's been on the radiator for about 3 weeks, that you keep putting back on the radiator. It's drying out. I always say you can use disposable compresses, like you can buy them, or like I just have a batch of flannels and I'll just have one for each day. So in the morning I'll use it in the morning, and then I will just reuse that at night, because you've only been, you know, you've not been sort of it's not full of makeup or, you know, harboring bacteria as such. But just make sure obviously you're using a clean one every day. And then even when you're washing them, just be careful with detergents, things like that, that they're not going to aggravate your skin, because, you know, fabric conditioners, things like that, now there's so many different things, isn't there? Those can also aggravate. But you can buy, like, you can actually buy, they're like you can get them like off Amazon and things like that. They're like a little round sponge. You remember like the little flannels you used to get, and you put them in water and they'd expand? They do things like that now, but you can just throw them away, that are biodegradable. So things like that. You know, avoid facial wipes at all, because they strip the skin's barrier. They're too like alkaline for our skin. So what happens is they just end up stripping everything, and they don't clean the face properly. So yeah, bin the face wipes. That's any mummies or daddies as well on here as well. Get rid of your face wipes. Moisturize the skin AM and PM. This will protect their barrier, and this will just put a nice sort of layer on the skin and protect the skin. And at night time it just helps, because it's more important cleansing at night time if they don't have time in the morning. It's not a big, you know, because I know what it's like when you're rushing in the morning and school run, you don't always have that time. But evening is more important with your cleanse, because you're cleansing away all the sort of the day, really, the pollution, you know, everything else that's been going on in the day. So, you know, removing that. And then your SPF in the morning. Obviously, you don't need to put your SPF on before you go to bed. So, but yeah, you know, keeping it basic, really. You don't need to overcomplicate it. And, you know, as they move into the teen years and they might struggle a little bit more, you know, you can look at getting like, you know, targeted serums or things like that that might help. But this is where I would say, you know, if you can, take them to a skin professional, even just for that advice. You don't have to take them necessarily for professional treatments, but just to sit and guide them through things that might help, and then you know what they're using. Or sometimes, like, you know, they want to use their own products or certain things that you're sort of guiding them on what they're using. And, you know, if anyone is like obviously more local to me or not too far and things, we do, you know, we do a team range. Nimue, the skincare brand that I use, it's a South African brand that was designed by a plastic surgeon. So it's amazing for skin health. And also, you know, it's, so they do a brand, a youth range, which is really good. So you haven't got your acids in there. They do quite a basic, you know, it's a soap-free cleanser, so it's not stripping the skin. They do 2 moisturizers, basic moisturizer, like all skins, and they do like more of a targeted one for like a, you know, more of an acne sort of problematic skin, skin treatment. So if anybody did want to reach out to me and ask a little bit more about that, then they can do. And you know, we can chat a little bit further about that. And now I shall ask you if you've got any questions or anything. If there's anything you want to ask me, or if you want to go over anything, things like that. Oh, do you want to unmute yourself if anyone's talking? 'Cause I can't.
One have you got something? Go on then.
How do you get rid of the spots like doing under your mouth?
Round
She
your
means
mouth.
like
Yeah.
just tiny
Tiny
little
little
spots that
spots.
she gets.
Yeah.
Are they just like little tiny, like almost like white ones a little bit, or do they get sore?
No.
No. Just what
No.
are you using? What are you cleansing your skin with? What are you using to wash your face with?
Go. What's the name?
It's green.
Yeah.
Just like
Can't think what it's called.
just like a gentle cleanser.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe just when you're washing your face, just make sure that you're washing really, really well, and you're washing for at least a minute, that you're putting that. So you're putting your cleanser into your hand. Yeah, and then when you are cleansing you're washing it up, and you're really getting right into all those little, you know, all the little tiny areas, because they're the little areas that are always a bit more trickier, and then they end up a bit harder and you get a bit more build up. So make sure that you're giving it a really good wash all around here, and especially here behind your ears a little bit, because that's always a place as well people tend to get a bit of a build up, especially if girls wear lots of makeup. And then use your face cloth to wipe that off, and then see how you get on with that. And you can use a moisturizer.
No, you don't, do you?
No.
No,
What would you say for her age? For like 10.
yeah, so she can use either, like I said, she could use the youth range that I use at the salon, or
Right.
even just something basic like a CeraVe is quite a basic skincare range, which is something that, you know, they do quite a lot of basic moisturizers, things like that. Just something really simple for her, that will
Yeah.
treat her skin and stuff. But you know, by all means, I'm happy for anybody, if they wanted me to pop some testers together for them or anything, and they wanted to try any of the youth range, I'm more than happy to you know, either, you know, if you're local, drop it off, or pop some in the post if you wanted to try it. Absolutely, you know, and I can give you a bit more info, you know, on them, and you can try it. That's not a problem. Any more questions or anything?
I think the sheet that you said you're going to send, that would be really useful, because I've got, like, my two daughters are complete extremes really. One of them has got she's got her own beauty routine. I don't even know what she's using, but I suppose I can just look at the ingredients on what she's using there,
Yeah,
because
absolutely, yeah.
it's all gobbledygook to me at the moment.
Yeah.
So learning the different types and what's good or not is just really, really useful. And then my other daughter is kind of the opposite, and probably doesn't do enough. So it's just, you know, I suppose some examples of just the bare minute what's good. She's nearly 16.
Yeah, and
She's the older one, but is not that bothered about it. But I'm aware that she still needs to be aware of it as well.
yeah, and it's just keeping it simple. And I think it's not overcomplicating skincare. And you know, I say that even to my own clients, that it's about consistency. And the more, you know, if you're consistent with something, then you'll stick with it. It's like anything, isn't it, in life? If you're consistent with it, you know, you get into that flow of it. And I think there's so much out there, and there's so many different things out there. And I think that's one of the things that's probably is that, as a parent, trying to guide your children on what they want, because they're, especially more so now, they have their own minds so much more now, don't they? And it's like, well, I've found this, I've seen this on TikTok, I'm having this, I've got to have this, and you know, they see stuff, and especially all these things are so brightly coloured and everything now, aren't they? They're like magpies to them, aren't they? So
Totally.
it's a bit of a minefield. So I'll put together like some of the probably acids that will be in a lot of the stuff, just as basic, so you understand what they are,
Yeah.
and not to use and things like that. And I'll put on a little skincare you know, little skincare routine for them, and just the ingredients to look for, because it's you've got that then to like refer back to then, haven't you?
That's great. Yeah, I did check with my daughter actually today whether she was using an SPF, and she does have one that's factor 50, but it's a primer as well, so she puts it on before she puts her makeup on. So is that
Yeah, I mean, it's not anything. I mean, I'm always one for saying use a separate one, but I think it depends on what it is, because it depends if it does do that, you know, if it's that high broad spectrum where it does filter the UVA and UVB. That's the biggest thing for me, because that's what we want to filter out. That's, you know, we want to get rid of that, because we want to make sure that our skin's protected and we're not getting, you know, skin cancer and things like that, you know, so we want to make sure that we are protecting that. So with a lot of things, like I would say, don't use one that's within makeup as well. Like, you know, sometimes say, oh, I've got factor 15 in my, it'll be very minimal that's in them, or even in a lot of moisturizers. I always say, you know, two separate ones, you are better too. And it's, you know, about reapplying it, especially if you're in the sun every couple of hours. I mean, you can buy things like now, I've just found some actually to stock that are a factor 50, like an SPF, so it's like a powder, so you can top that up, because obviously I understand if you've got a full face of makeup on in the day,
yeah,
to try and top that up with your sun cream, it's difficult.
yeah.
So it's trying to find these other alternatives that, you know, that we can. And I think as well, you know, when it comes to them looking at the makeup and things like that, of what they're using, making sure they're not buying makeup that's going to block the pores, because some makeup is so heavy. It's like a vicious circle then, if they've got the, you know, if they're struggling with the breakouts and they're struggling with stuff, you know, like, you know, naturally, I think you just want to cover it, don't you? And sometimes you need to let the skin breathe. I know when I was younger, oh, it was terrible if I'd be picking at my skin and then I'd be covering it up, and then you're just in the like vicious cycle, aren't you? And now I'm just like, oh, it's like, you know, I might don't pick them, don't mess around. It kills me now not to be there messing.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, I think just having that, and you know, and doing. And I've got my friend Carol on here, and Carol, if you want to unmute yourself, is there anything you would add to this that I may have not thought about, if you're listening? Oh,
Hello. I was just getting the other half to turn the telly down there. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So Carol is one of my friends who is also a amazing skin therapist up in Scotland. So if you've any friends up near Oban and you need just have any help, Carol's up there. But yeah, is there anything you would add to that, Carol?
I think you kind of hit all the nails on the head. Definitely trying to separate your SPF from being in your moisturiser and in your foundations and things, I think is key. You just don't know what you're getting otherwise.
Yeah, that's what I always say, because it's like you say, it could be so minimal what's in it. You know, they might say factor 15, but you just no idea what, you know, what's in it. So I always think, and just keeping it simple at that age.
Yeah, definitely. And just watching, I mean, I know there's wee bits and bobs about the place saying vitamin C, definite no, all that kind of thing, but actually it's the way it's delivered into the skin, isn't it? And it's the way it's encapsulated. So as a blanket ban, no, definitely not. But depending on the brand and the quality of the brand and the quality of that ingredient that's going into the skin and how it's going in, definitely there's good and bad, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that vitamin C, vitamin C is an amazing product for your skin, but it's got to be stabilized, and there's so much into vitamin C, and you know, you see it in a clear bottle and you just know it's not going to be right, because vitamin C will not survive in a clear bottle. It's got to be in a bottle. So there's all those things, and you'll see stuff with a lot of brands where you see, you know, and it's like such and such a vitamin C, and there's so many different strengths. If it's too strong and if it's not delivered right, it will just irritate the skin so much.
Yeah,
because it's
and that's it. It's not about oh, it's got to have, what strength is it? What percentage is it? That doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's another thing, you probably find that with you know, especially teens and stuff. They're like, oh, I'm using X of percentage, or I'm using this. Or it's absolutely irrelevant on the percentage of ingredients, really, because it's just about making sure that it's, you know, it's working for their skin. They're using basic, you know, simple ingredients that are just going to help that skin barrier at the end of the day and keep it protected. Because if they do that now, their skin will thank them in, you know, I didn't get into using SPF till, God, I was probably not on a daily basis till I was in my 30s.
I was the same. Nobody taught us, Emily.
No, no, and you did, and I think this is one thing, you know, both me and Carol, we're both like, we work with Nimue, and you know, I've used, and probably Carol the same, loads and loads of brands over the years, you know, massive brands. I've been trained in lots of different ones, and I can honestly say with Nimue, it's, you know, it's, for me, as an acne sufferer all my life, it's completely changed my skin. I very rarely get a breakout now, because it's all about working on that skin health, and that's what's important. It's doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's too far to say that it kind of is life-changing. It's that good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Oh God, yeah, absolutely. And it's, you know, it's a great brand, but I'll send you some information. You can have a little read about Nimue and the background of it, because it is a fascinating brand, and it's, you know, it's, everything is so well researched with it. They literally, you know, you can't get, you know, it's like I say, I've used lots of different ones over the years, but I can honestly say, and even like my own clients, I mean, my Harry uses the youth range, and I have to, obviously, I'm like with the moisturizer and doing it because he's a typical boy, but I have it in the shower and he'll just, and I really noticed with his skin, he got a lot of little tiny blackheads and little tiny white little bits here and round here, and so he just started using that, and his skin's really cleared up. And I said, don't pick at him, and you know, and just see how you get on. And he's literally just cleansing it every day. He will use the moisturizer probably sporadically. I mean, it's still quite a full tube. We've had it a while, so I'm working on that. But yeah, I think, yeah. But if there's any other questions that come up after, let me just pop on here. I've put my social stuff on there. If there's any, you know, questions that pop up after that you might think of, and you want some help, you know, and it's even on my Instagram, I've got some little how-to videos of how to cleanse your skin, things like that. They're just in the highlights part there. So, but I will get the cheat sheet to you probably at the beginning of next week now, because a busy weekend this weekend, but I will definitely get it to you with the ingredients, and I'll put a skincare routine. Is there anything else you'd like me to add on it that would make life easier for you? You can think of, or were you happy with that?
I suppose just recommended brands, but I guess that the brand that you were talking about is the one that you'd recommend the most, isn't it? And
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm going to
there's so
recommend
many,
that.
so
Yeah,
many out
and
there,
you know,
isn't
a
there?
couple of bits, but I think if you was going to just go for like what I would class as a supermarket or whatever brand, I don't know ins and outs about it, but you know, CeraVe always seems to be something. I don't know if there's anything you think of, Carol, but I know you're probably like me. Will always obviously back Nimue, but I think just a basic something like that would probably suit. Yeah, just,
You know me, Emily, I'm a die-hard Nimue fan, so I'm not recommending anything else.
yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because it's like when I think as well, because for like when you are a skin therapist and you're so passionate about a brand and you know it works and you know the ins and outs about it, so you know exactly what your client's getting. So it's hard to say, because people will ask me, oh, what do you think about that brand? What do you think about that? And I'm like, well, I don't really know anything about it, because to go, oh, that's okay, you know, and they say, oh, I bought this such a thing from TK Maxx. And I'm thinking, oh God, it's probably been there for about 10 years, but
And maybe the flannels thing, there's a nice wee brand. I think she still does it. I think she's called the Skin Nerd. But basically it's called the Cleanse Off Mitt. But anything
Oh,
like
is
that,
what
just
you've
to
used? I think
remove their makeup basically, and not kind of waste their cleanser as well, because they can just like wet that, and it's microfibers, so they just use it like a wee mitt over their hand. It's been ran under the sink, and it will remove all of their makeup so that they can use their cleanser, and their cleanser is going to benefit them because it's not trying to fight through their makeup.
I'll put that on their Skin Nerd, did you say then, Carol? Yeah.
I think it's the Skin Nerd, but it's got its own website. I think it's the
Yeah.
Cleanse Off Mitt.
I think I've seen them, yeah. I think, I mean, there's other things, isn't there, like the, what's it called? Is it called the Clean Towel? But they're a bit pricey,
Yeah,
the boxes of them.
yeah, no, these aren't too bad. These are definitely under a tenner, definitely.
Yeah, because I think that's one thing. It's important that they do cleanse when they are cleansing the skin, that the cleanser's actually treating the skin. So if they've got really, really thick makeup on, just use a tiny bit of cleanser, get as much off as they can, and then use the cleanser to actually treat the skin, if you're with me, because if they're not getting that off and they're literally doing a few seconds, and then it's still going to be on the skin, so they really need to be really cleansing, getting right in with the nose, and like I said, back of the ears, because they'll get makeup that'll go around here, and they'll probably put it up here, and it'll be down the neck, and it's probably everywhere in it. Because I know when I was young, you used to you just put it everywhere, didn't you? And fake tan and things like that. That's another thing I always say. I very rarely put fake tan on my face anymore. I don't ever. I mean, I don't really fake tan much because I don't really go out anymore. But I just but that's another thing. Be careful with fake tans and stuff, because they can block the pores. I mean, you can buy like the tan drops now that you can put in moisturizers, can't you, and things. I mean, I don't really use a lot of stuff like that, but making sure that they're not blocking the pores with lots of fake tan, because again, that will that'll clog the pores up. So, but yeah. But if you're happy there with where we're at and you've no more questions, then we shall stop there. I will just have I just lost you? 1 minute. Sorry. Have I stopped